Welcome back, family. This is part three, Modern Mystic Messages. Like I said, most important message I'm ever going to give. So, as far as Enlil and Enki, in the Lost Book, he tells the story. He says that the what we have so far is the story from the time of the Adamu, Adam and Eve, forward. But gives us a little bit of backstory of the before time, how they came to be here in the first place, and starts telling the story of Nibiru. If you haven't watched it, I'm telling you, it's not hard to listen to, but you got it anyway. But people, one of the things that got my attention and made me go back and rewind and listen all over again was he was saying that in that time that was going on with the people right before the flood and all of that, that the people were having so many health problems with the aches and pains and flu-like symptoms. It sounded literally like a modern day commercial for the stuff that we have with all the symptoms that they're trying to treat. They was going through it back then. And when he tells the story of Nibiru, honey, you think that the morality, the violence that we're having on the planet right now is a mistake? No wonder with us following the religion trail that we keep wars and stuff going on this planet, because that's how their life was. Their life that they described, that he described in the before time, was this that we're living right now times 10 as part of their everyday occurrence. Their moral system was different. And yet, of all of those around initially, Enki was the one that had more compassion than most of the counterparts of his time. Like real talk. And when we if you understand that and get back to the Bible and what was happening in the Garden of Eden, after understanding what was really going down in the Garden of Eden, when they got there, the conversation it takes up by the time we get to Genesis chapter 3, verse 1, that same verse that cost me so many ass whoopings when I was 3. Adam had gone out and left Eve alone while he was doing whatever he was doing, work in the garden, whatever, in their breeding program. Adam and Eve were the first successful breedable pair in their program after they came here. And Enki, in his compassion, couldn't take it no more. He told Eve the truth about what was happening, and she switched off her worship gene. And he knew that she could because he was the geneticist that gave it to her at Enlil's insistence. Enlil had insisted that they would, like I said, they decided to play God, and they weren't right in doing so. Nobody ever suggested that they were. Okay. Um, But when they did that and decided to create this hominid, in order to get a viable breeding pair, they had to insert Anunnaki DNA into it. That whole story about the rib and the side of the rib and all of that in Genesis, yes, that happened. But what they didn't tell you is that Ninharsag, or the one I think we believe know now as Ishtar, and Enki were the ones that actually they took some of their genetic material. He put some of his Inky put some of his genetic material in Adam, I think, and Nanharsag put some of her genetic material into Eve, and then however they arranged it as the geneticists on the project, it allowed them to become um, fertile, basically. Wow, yeah. And so, in any event, when they come along with the Eden story, Enlil said that we were never to be told that they are not God. He he completely constructed that whole plan, and yes, the Galactic Council knew about it. That in order, once they did that, and they had the cat was out of the bag with what they had done, then they were like, okay, it can play out that way. They're not supposed to know that y'all aren't God. They were still down here amongst us on Earth, always have been. But Enki told the truth, and Lil was enraged. And that whole story we have about the devil and the Satan and him being evil and the manslayer and all the rest of that, What people don't understand is that in this scripture, through translating out and what you come to know by looking at these two pieces of work side by side, Enlil in the Bible is Yahweh, Jehovah. The Bible, what the Jews, Muslims, and Christians worship. That is who the God of the Bible is. That's why it always looked weird to me that the God of the Bible was vengeful and jealous and bloodthirsty and all of that stuff we read about. And every bit of it's right there because he basically said, "Let us." He does not have a love for humanity. Let's put it that way. And but by the same turn, the one they refer to as Satan there in Eden is also Enlil, Yahweh, Yehovah. That's the part that I missed the first time. I thought initially that the one that had been accused of being Satan, that it was a title or whatnot. And it was. It didn't mean what we have it to mean now. It was a title like governor or vizier, executive administrator of an area. And the Garden of Eden was a laboratory type situation in their breeding program as they came here to do this genetic modification on the planet. So he was Satan of Eden, but it was Enlil who was Satan of Eden, not Enki. But over time, the story that we've gotten through the twisted whatever has been put, the spin that was put on what we call the Bible, has us fearing the Canaanitic religions, the things that Enki put out before us, teaching us about astrology, teaching us about meditation and balance, teaching us how to turn off our worship gene that in Buddhism, Jainism, and those type philosophies, they're not worship, teaching us to walk away from that. That was painted as evil, and the world on a bloody path was led into the predominance and proclivity of the Abrahamic religions to keep our worship gene well activated. That is very important for us to know in this day and time. Um, Again, put aside all the boogeyman stories about Satan and the demons and the devil. And yes, there's some nasty stuff here that is in the unseen that will play with us. They are the minions of Satan, Jehovah. They play that game, people. But as long as you stay wrapped up in that, tied up in your mind, you will never escape it. Because in this day and time, what they call Satanism or Luciferianism, Christians are scared to death of it. But what they don't understand is that it's the opposite, it's the same frequency of the same religion. Judaism, Islam, and Christianity are basically the same religion from a different vantage point, but they all come back to the Abrahamic traditions and worship of a form or a name of Yahweh. And so does Satanism, and so does Luciferianism by going back to that satanic thing. Satan is in little people. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why was I willing to risk social outcast to tell y'all all of that? Because you don't know or do not know or will. Ooh, snap, that one fell all the way on the floor and I gotta get it. Hold on. The reason I'm willing to say that is because the one that was accused of being so evil and satanic, Enki, actually tried to bring us assistance. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In the information that is coming out and leaking out and getting back to the West and all the patterns that I've been noticing, all of that, codes have been left behind, the mystics are seeing it and all that. So when I started trying to look at things through the eyes of the mystic and seeing these rabbit holes that we're going to go down, I put a whole lot of things together. But when he said that he had Dupsa write those things down so that someone could find and know, the world that he described from their home world was the same violent, kind of nasty, bed hopping, kill each other, kill your brother, stay in power, mismanipulate, greed stuff that we have going on right here. They was having it there too. And what none of them were willing to see, and Enki was trying to teach people as well, was that it is about learning to control those kinds of moralities or lack thereof. Oh my goodness, lack thereof within the mind. fighting. Have you not noticed that everything they wage so-called social war on this planet gets bigger? The war on drugs, the war on AIDS, the war on this, the war on poverty, the war on, and meanwhile everything they war on gets bigger. You can't kill war by more fighting. You just cannot. Makes these greedy people a whole lot of money and costs us a whole lot of sons and daughters and keeps our consciousness from expanding. A conscious mind is not going to get out there and fight. The scriptures say a slave of the Lord has no need to fight. Now, Yahweh is meaning that in a different way because he is vengeful and exacting, but there's enough in the mystic coding in there for people to understand the more peaceful religions, if you understood how powerful you were mentally and turned off your worship gene and did that and tapped into the diamond core God cell that the master geneticist Ninhart Sag and Enki put in them themselves, and they're telling us to do that, you are infinitely more powerful than you know. And the time is vastly coming where that's going to be important to know. We're going to continue as I continue to shuffle and pull and tell you more in the next part. Thank you for staying along with. Please share this. Like I said, whether you believe it or agree with it or not, I'm going somewhere, people, and I'm hoping to take as many along with me as possible because it is vitally important to your personal potential survival and that of your children and grandchildren and humanity overall. I love you so much, family. Please stay tuned. Join us for the next bit in just a moment. Namaste.